welcome to the Three Inning Fan Show with me, Kelley Franco. I am so excited about our guest here today because I am here with my personal friend, Ken Davidoff. Ken is, of course, a 25-year sports writing veteran with the New York Post, but most recently, he is the author of 101 Lessons from the Dugout, along with Dr. Harley Rothbard. Ken, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Kelly. Great to see you.
It's great to see you too. Now, I have to ask you, for 25 years, you were a tenacious reporter with the New York Post and covering the grind of Major League Baseball and the anxiety of the New York sports world. And now you've gone and you've done something positive. What possible explanation could you have for that? I mean, are you nuts?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I reached the point, Kelly. I did, yeah, as you said, I was on the hamster wheel for from the time I graduated college until the time I turned 50. And I got burned out, Kelly. I reached the point where I was like, I am not enjoying this job anymore. It was my childhood dream. I achieved it, zero regrets, but maybe it's time for someone else to have an opportunity here because I'm not enjoying this opportunity anymore. So in 2022, I just quit, and I kind of just jumped off a cliff professionally, and it turned out like right before I did that, this book, 101 Lessons from the Dugout, first came to my attention by my co-author Harley Rothbard and my we have the same literary agent Lisa Lesney. She connected us, and Harley had written a full manuscript essentially with his idea of equating lessons from the games of baseball and softball to the rest of your life. Harley's perspective was as a little league coach, high school travel ball, and also as a pediatrician who had really relate to young people and their challenges and their triumphs and all that. So he liked the idea of partnering up with me. I can infuse the book with my perspective, having covered the game at the highest level. So that's how we got to this book. And yeah, I do think it's a sweet, positive book, and I'm very happy to be promoting it.
That is fantastic. And I read it and I loved it. And we're going to talk about some of the lessons from it because they're really applicable to people of all ages. But let me ask you, what made this the right time in your life to work on this book that seems to be completely different from anything you've ever done?
I appreciate that. It is different, and I like that it's different. Yeah, I mean, basically, what it came down to, Kelly, is when I quit my job in January, February of 2022, I honestly didn't know what was going to be next. I just kind of saw like in the worst case scenario, I'll be my wife's arm candy, for the next 50 years.
Trophy
And
husband?
yes, yes. But this book came down the pike, and I also had other book ideas I was working on, and a teaching opportunity came along. But this book, Lisa sold. Very grateful to Bloomsbury, excuse me, Bloomsbury Academic Publishing, and I this was as a turn like I feel very blessed that this is the book idea that did land because I love talking about it, and it really has energized me and allowed me to kind of like re-embrace my love of baseball and softball because covering the game, I had like this old school approach, like, yeah, maybe I'd love it on some level, but I'd be willing to destroy it tomorrow for the right story, right? Because the journalism came first. But now that I'm no longer a full-time journalist, I can just watch a ball game and talk about the game without any limits or without any burden of being someone who's covering it.
Wow. So it sounds like you're seeing baseball in a new way since you retired from sports writing.
Absolutely. Yes.
What a gift. So let's talk about some of the lessons from this book, 101 Lessons from the Dugout. One that really struck me, and it's kind of an overriding theme in here, is this theme of failure. I mean, because
Yeah.
we all know baseball is a game of failure. So, what do we learn from that, and how did that find its way into your book as such an overriding theme?
Well, yeah, Kelly, as you said, I mean, when people talk about baseball, what's one of the first things they say is, "Hey, this is a game where if you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you go to Cooperstown," right? So, and the more modern speak, if you get on base 4 out of 10 times, you go to Cooperstown.
Right, right.
But yeah, so I don't think you could write a book about these games without addressing failure at length, and we do. We write about the strikeout, we write about the error and mental mistakes, looking at a third strike. So yeah, and just the lessons you can take away from that, in terms of try to avoid it for the next time, but and also how to just own up to it and move on. So there's multiple elements, and my co-author Harley, like he has a wonderful mind. Like he just some of the analogies he drew and that I signed on for because I love them too. Like he just had such a great way of looking at things. I think because he was just so mentally tuned in to these young people, having dealt with them all those years as a pediatrician.
So this is what I find really interesting is I'm feeling a little bit of a parallel, I guess, between you and me, because I'm also in my 50s and I started this baseball podcast a couple years ago, which is completely different from my regular life as an attorney. And you went and did something different too. And this concept of failure, I find applicable to me because before I started the baseball podcast, I was kind of like, well, what if I fail? And then I was like, oh, well, who cares? And
Right.
I'm wondering if you maybe had that feeling when you went to write this book. I mean, did it occur to you that you might be a total failure?
Yes, it did occur to me. It was interesting, Cal, because gosh, so I quit 4 years ago, March 1st, 2022. I've probably worked on like 5 or 6 different book ideas at different levels of engagement and commitment. And like this is the one that landed. But like it was not like yeah, I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. I wasn't like badgering my agent Lisa, at once a month, like what's going on with the book? What's going? Because I was just working on other projects in addition to a bunch of freelance writing and some content creation and teaching. So I think I've just stayed busy enough these last 4 years to not harp on any one activity.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. You talked a lot about the small ball philosophy in your book. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, that's chapter 23. That's small ball and one step at a time. And we all know the concept of small ball in baseball and softball. Don't swing for the fences. Move runners over, or base hit, bunt them over, sacrifice fly. That's small ball. And ironically, I've gotten some feedback from modern day baseball folks saying there's no more small ball. What are you talking about? It's launch angle now and exit velocity. But if you saw Giancarlo Stanton's journey around the bases the other day, I think
Yeah.
small ball is alive and well. But the beauty of small ball to me is that's one of the really easily translatable lessons to the rest of your life. And I've been talking about my own professional journey as a baseball writer where I felt like I really deployed small ball. I started covering Major League Baseball in 1995. I was 24 years old. I mean, how foolish would it have been if I was trying to swing for the fences, like trying to break major news or write controversial columns or news stories. Like my approach was, all right, let me start to introduce myself to some people and work my way up. So, okay, like here, I got a good exclusive interview with someone, and not even like bombshell information interview, but just, an insightful, thoughtful interview with a player. And then like I used to have to write Yankees notebook or Met notebook back in the day. Oh, look at this fourth note that Davidoff had. That's a good, like no one else had that. Not earth shattering, but that's good. Good job reporting that and building my way up to. I did get myself to a level where I was comfortable swinging for the fences and writing controversial columns and trying to break some big news. And as you know, Kelly, when you swing for the fences, sometimes you strike out. But when I was doing that, I had established a foundation that it was okay for me to strike out and it wasn't going to cost me my career.
What I really love about this book is that it applied to you when you were 24, 25 years old. It applies to us in our 50s, and it does also apply to kids. And it's a
Yeah.
great book. If you have a kid who's just starting Little League at spring or, just kicking up into their high school baseball springtime team, it would be a really nice gift for them and for the parents too, I think.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, we always stress young people and their parents and grandparents and coaches.
Right. Sometimes the parents need it more, right? Now, there was one thing I really like, so I want to get it right. So I'm looking at the book.
Sure.
Chapter 11.
Hmm.
Life is not a pitching machine. This is
Yeah.
something that I just found incredibly relevant, again, to people of all ages. I mean, you want to explain the lesson in there for the youth that was in the book?
Sure. So, yeah, I'll just briefly read. Life is not a pitching machine, as you said. What happens in life isn't always what we expect. Our plans get messed up, activities are canceled or added to our day. Our focus is changed by what other people do or say. So, don't get upset or panic because of life's many spins and angles. Do the best you can when you're expecting a fastball, but if life throws you a curve, you may have to change how and where you stand in the batter's box to hit the pitch. So the idea of same idea, an at bat, basic at bat, right? Like what am I going to get here? Fastball, curveball, changeup. Well, sometimes you're going to guess wrong, and you need to adjust, or the pitcher isn't throwing what you expected the pitcher to expect. That's like life itself. Some you can, as much as you prepare for life, sometimes you get thrown curveballs, and you just have to deal with it.
Totally true. And again, like, especially at our age when you start, having health issues and this and
Oh
that.
yeah,
I mean, things just come out of bad pun, but come out of left field. And
yeah.
sometimes you are expecting a fastball and you get a curve. And so there was stuff in there that I just found kind of oddly comforting. And I hope you're seeing a lot of success in sales.
I hope so too. It's, but I appreciate that. I'm due an update.
All right. Well, I hope it goes well.
Thank you.
Now, Ken, you mentioned at the top of the show a little bit about burnout, and you've been pretty open about the burnout that you experienced.
Yeah.
What specifically was it about, covering sports in New York, the Yankees and the Mets that kind of fueled this burnout?
Kelly, I think it was just it's relentless, and it's the way that journalism has evolved. And I want to make clear, like I totally get it. Of course, like Kelly, like, when I mentioned my first game I covered in 1995, the Mets manager was Dallas Green, may he rest in peace. So when Dallas said something at 4 o'clock. I had like hours to think about it and okay, how should I frame this? And maybe should I talk to more people and what words should I use? And, I think I probably sent something at 8 o'clock, to the Bergen Record. And nowadays, when Carlos Mendoza, the Mets manager, says something at 4 o'clock, it's out there, it's on social media by 4:01, and the Bergen Record or the New York Post where I ended, the story is up by 4:45, 5 o'clock. And I can't stress enough, that's how it should be. I get it. But I do think that has an impact on the product. And you have to obviously you have to adapt, you have to do the best within the circumstances. But having started my career when I did, I struggled with that. And then I would just say like the evolution of hot takes really irked me. Like that, the idea that I was competing with like anonymous people on Twitter for who has the best take. It's like no, that's not what I signed up for. Like I'm here in the clubhouse with these people. Like I'm sorry if my take is a little more measured than your take, but that's why I'm here. And yes, and I think just it was the repetition as well. Like it's just how many columns can I write about like what's wrong with the Yankees? Like at some point I just got tired of it.
Well, I guess after 25 years, I can kind of understand that.
Yeah.
And yeah, the social media aspect has got to be really frustrating when you're with the team all the time and you know what's going on, and people just make stuff up to get clicks or likes or reactions.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I remember Kelly, like, because what happens is from the news chasing perspective, people just throw stuff out there, anonymous accounts, and like one out of 100 times, they'll actually have some information, so you have to acknowledge that and credit the anonymous person, but like the other 99 times, you're chasing down nonsense. So I just found that because of the way things evolve, I found myself spending more of my time, a higher percentage of my time on nonsense.
So when did the wheels start turning that you might think about retiring and just kind of putting a bow on that experience?
I would say like right before COVID, actually, I signed a 2-year contract on February 1st, 2020, with a 2-year extension with the Post. So from till February 1st, 2022, and within 2 months, the world was shut down. But I remember as I signed that contract, my wife and I were talking. I said, maybe this is it. Maybe this is my last contract, and she was in favor of that. And the way those 2 years went, with all the ups and downs, there were times when I thought, oh, thank God I still have this job, given where things were headed. But then by the time that 2-year contract ended, I felt like, you know what, like I'm at total peace with what I've accomplished in my career. I don't feel like I need to accomplish anything more in this line of work. And I think I'm going to be much happier if I stop doing this job. So that's why I quit, and I have zero regrets.
Of course, because I'm about the same age myself and also, self-employed, the first thing I think is, yeah, but didn't you think about working until you were Medicare eligible?
Yeah, I mean, we were responsible. We ran numbers. It's all good.
Well, I really admire the fact that you just made a decision and stuck with it because it's not an easy decision for a lot of people to make to retire and just kind of throw away the keys.
Yeah, and I really, I thought about it for an extended period of time, and I thought, like, what would I miss? I wouldn't miss the actual work. I was very confident of that, and it was like, are you a Simpsons fan? Fan of The
Oh,
Simpsons?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the one where Krusty like kind of vanished, fakes his own death, Krusty the Clown, and you know, and he says like, and they say, "Come on, Krusty, you must miss the suck ups." Like, yeah, I do miss the suck ups. And dude, my equivalent of that was ego. Like, yeah, like to have
Yeah.
that K Davidoff at nypost.com email, like that would open doors. And look, I did enough TV, on the side where like, yeah, I would occasionally get recognized on the street or on the subway. I didn't mind that. That was okay. So
Yeah.
and then so that was the superficial stuff that I thought I would miss, and then the deeper stuff was the relationships. It's like I don't miss the rat race, but I miss the rats.
Mm.
But knock on wood, like I've been able to maintain most of those relationships. My fear was, like, would people stop returning my calls or my texts? And for the most part, they have not, which has been nice.
Yeah, I remember you and I first met through Twitter,
Yeah.
right around the time you were retiring. And,
Mhm.
you offered to meet with me over Zoom. And I was like, oh my God, Ken Davidoff, he's like a celebrity.
Yeah, but that's been nice to been able, and really, like, my relationships have changed with a lot of these folks because I'm no longer a threat in any way, right? Like they can
Mm.
confide in me knowing that, I'm not going to spill the beans on anything because I'm just not in that line of work anymore.
That's fascinating. Do you still talk with players?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, to be frank, not as many active players as retired players, just because
Mm.
that's, I think, probably naturally they're closer to me in age. I've known them longer. I had more time to establish those relationships. But, even like I'm still, as you know, Kelly, I'm still involved with the baseball writers dinner in Manhattan. So, I got to say hi to Aaron Judge, and I got to engage very briefly with Otani and Scooble and Skeens and all those guys. So, yeah, that still gives me that avenue to talk to some people.
All right. Well, I can't let you go without talking a little bit of Yankees and Mets. Let's start with the
Sure.
Yankees. What do you like about them so far this season?
Well, how can you not like their starting pitching? It's pretty spectacular, right? And yeah, I mean and I have the tapes to prove this, Kelly. Like, and I know we're only, what, 2 weeks in, not even, but like this whole idea over the winter of like, how can the Yankees run it back? They're because the Blue Jays will just pound them again. And it's like, how did the Blue Jays get this regal status? Like, God bless them. They had a tremendous 2025, but a lot went right, and you're already seeing a lot go wrong with them. So I like that the Yankees ran it back. I think they have a really good team, and we've seen their offense has a lot of weapons. Obviously, Aaron Judge is number one, but he has a supporting cast now, and the starting pitching is terrific with Cole and Rodon and Schmidt still on the way, right?
Yeah, I just love watching Cam Schlittler pitch. Oh my goodness, what a pleasure.
Yeah, I went to one regular season game last year, and it was his major league debut. That was serendipitous.
Oh my God, and that game against the Red Sox in the postseason.
Oh, yes. Yeah, epic.
Just insane. What would you tweak about the Yankees this season if you could wave a magic wand?
Huh. Well, to me, the biggest area of concern flared up the other day, their bullpen. I mean, and they've been very good prior to last year. They've been very good at magically creating bullpens, right? And even Luke Weaver was like a minor signing, turns into a big time closer, and Holmes before him. So they've been excellent at that. But last year it was a liability, right?
Yeah.
And this year, yeah, look, they're 7-2, right? So I wouldn't say anything's really been a liability, but you saw I think the worst case scenario emerged the other day with Jake Bird blowing up, and yeah, just concerns like do they have enough in the bullpen uh, to to uh, to close out the leads? I think they're going to have a lot of leads between their starting rotation and their lineup. So yeah, they just can't blow too many leads.
Yeah, that Sunday game was a winnable game.
Mhm.
And I know they can't win every game, but you don't want to see them lose games that they should be winning. Another concern I have about the Yankees is the bottom of their lineup. Do you think it's going to get going, the 7 through 9 or 6 through 9?
Yeah, based on track records, I mean, Caballero is an interesting player. I mean, he's been absolutely dreadful, right? And even last year, he gets on base, right? He draws a lot of walks, and when he draws those walks, he can steal a bag for you. So yeah, based on track records, my answer is yes, but obviously there's variance every year with these guys, so that certainly would have to rank as an early concern.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, and hopefully Aaron Judge stays healthy and they have a good season. I'm here with Ken Davidoff, author of 101 Lessons from the Dugout, but also kind of that super famous sports writer from the New York Post days. So how about the Mets? What do you like about them at this point in the season, or dislike?
Yeah, they're interesting, Kelly. I was with them for a day in spring training and for the Yankees also. A lot of optimism around that team. And, the sense of look, that there had to be a fumigation, and not a condemnation of any one individual, but just that mix was not working, right? So obviously the rather dramatic offseason with Alonso and Nimmo and McNeil going as well as Diaz to the Dodgers of all teams. Yeah, I don't know what to make of them. We're talking about 10 games, right? They're tied for first place, right? 6-4, is that right?
I think they might be tied for second.
Oh, okay. Are they
I
tied
don't
behind
know.
the
Maybe
Braves?
you're right, but
Okay.
who's in front? Are the Braves in front?
I thought there was like a three-way tie, but I
Maybe
could,
it's a three-way tie.
yeah, I could
But
be.
anyway, you're right.
Well, no,
It's
the
10
Braves are
games.
six and
Yeah.
five. So it's, yeah, the Mets, Phillies, and are the Marlins yeah, the Mets, Phillies, and Marlins are all 6-4. So, yeah, they are tied for first place. So,
Excellent. All right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, we're talking about a tiny sample, but I would be very surprised if they did not make the playoffs. I just think with what they did with getting Bichette, and I know Luis Robert had the early home run, and obviously Peralta at the front of the rotation. My biggest area of concern with them is also the bullpen, and I know it hasn't really come into play too much so far, but. From what I witnessed and heard about Devin Williams, I have concerns about his ability to close in New York.
He is off to a decent start so
Yeah,
far this year,
yeah,
but still some concerns.
yeah. No, we need to see what happens. He's going to blow a game, which is
Sure.
inevitable, and not as long as he can shrug it off the next night, fine. But problem last year was it snowballed with the Yankees.
Mm. Yeah, in New York, we were spoiled for so many years with Mariano Rivera. In a way, I wish that I could just like wash the memory of him outside of my brain because it totally corrupts any analysis of any other reliever or closer because there's always this impossible comparison that they have to stand up to.
I agree. I agree. But look, I think if you watched the Yankees last year with Williams, and believe me, Kelly, I'm as much of a stats geek as anybody. I appreciate all the analytics. I think they're wonderful. But when I was reading over the winter, like, oh, Devin Williams' season wasn't as really as bad as you'd think it was. It's like, I don't know. I followed it every day. It was pretty bad, just the way I mean, lost the closer job, and so that. I understand the stuff might still be there, but like I covered all of Mario's successors from David Robertson to Rafael Soriano to Betances to Andrew Miller. I didn't have I have specific concerns, excuse me, about Devin Williams.
Interesting. Well, there is that New York jinx for some people. You said you were with the Mets in spring training, so I have to ask you about the clubhouse. How was it? And did you perceive any issues?
I have to be honest, Kelly, I was in there for probably 45 seconds. So I don't want to cast judgment on my eyewitness experience, but I do think the concerns there are very real. And in particular, Lindor and Soto, they're just clearly not best friends, which is okay. But I mean, my post colleague Joel Sherman, I thought he wrote a great column over the winter, just kind of detailing some of the specific stuff going on between those two and why Cohen should kind of have a peace summit, even if not explicitly feuding. There's just it's more of a Cold War. But yeah, I think that remains a concern for that team because of their two very potent, forces in the clubhouse, extremely accomplished players, both with long-term contracts. And it is vital that they somehow are able to complement each other rather than act as more opposing forces.
What do you think the roots of those feelings are between the two of them? And how is it at all, if it is at all, affecting play on the field?
I can't say whether it's affecting play on the field, but I think it's fair game to wonder after last year and everything that was reported about that group, about the chemistry. I mean, I remember Joel Sherman had a great detail in the column, like Juan Soto, like he would attend hitters meetings, but just kind of, sit in the back and not really contribute. And like little things like that matter over the course of a 162 game season. There's such a family dynamic there. And if there is tension, I think that can carry out onto the field, and even if it's in subtle ways. And I mean, Joel, I remember he wrote. Clearly, I really like this column he wrote. I keep citing it. But yeah, I like Lindor. Like takes up essentially like two lockers in the clubhouse. Obviously Lindor is very into his extracurriculars, which he has every right to. No one would ever question his commitment to baseball. He's got the podcast and the fashion, and doesn't do any of that stuff. He just plays baseball. So you can see why they're not, brothers from another mother. They're definitely wired differently. And it's on them to prove that this isn't an issue that is a negative force. That, obviously, many teams have won championships with different types of personalities in the clubhouse. But I think if anything, what they did over the winter only strengthened the importance of those two guys. With Alonso and Nimmo out of the picture.
So you have been in the belly of the beast for 3 decades now, and really with these New York teams in their clubhouses, getting to know them and their players and the front offices and the owners. When somebody signs an outsized contract that is just seriously an outlier like that, does that have an effect on a team or on relationships with others on a team?
It can. You're talking about Soto's contract.
Yes.
Um, yeah, it certainly can. It doesn't have to. I mean, but look, I think it is different when it's a free agent from another team as opposed to someone, like an Aaron Judge re-signing with the Yankees for the enormous contract that he received. And again, everything I've seen and heard about Juan Soto is he's not a contentious person, but it's also clear like he has appeared more engaged as a national and as a Yankee than as a Padre or a Met. I think people talked about that he wasn't doing the Soto shuffle last year. Like he just seemed very happy that 1 year as a Yankee. Like he really liked hitting in the same lineup as Aaron Judge. And I don't know if it was the pressure of the contract last year. And again, obviously he put up spectacular statistics. So we're quibbling here. We're nitpicking, but you get to nitpick when guy gets $765 million. But yeah, I do. I think I don't even know if it was his contract per se, but he is a vital person on the team with the most job security of anyone. So as I said, like when he doesn't participate in the hitters' meetings, when he just sits back, as Joel reported, that stands out enough for someone to tell Joel about it, right?
It's fascinating because, Joel wrote about it, and Mike Puma he had a column about it
Yeah.
too. And on Twitter, a lot of fans, on X, a lot of fans were going berserk. But, these guys are in the clubhouse. Puma and Sherman. I mean, they're in there. And I don't think that they write stuff to be clicked on. I think they write about what they observe. And I do trust them.
As do I. Yeah. Although, look, it is that I'm just to uh, talk through what you said. Like part of journalism is what's important and what's interesting, right? So you write those two things. So yeah, obviously, when you write about Lindor and Soto, you know it's probably going to do well click wise. But if it's based in fact and authenticity, then that's fine.
Well, so now you've done it. You've put a bow on your sports writing experience. You've written a book about baseball that was a feel-good book and that I highly recommend, 101 Lessons from the
Thank you.
Dugout. What does baseball mean to you now that you are kind of seeing it through a different lens?
It's just, Kelly, like I've re-embraced my love for baseball. Like I had, like that first year, March 1st, 2022 was my last day. It was actually during the lockout, if you remember.
Yes.
And they settled 10 days later, roughly. But I did not watch a game that entire season until the playoffs.
Are you kidding
I am
me?
not
You
kidding.
had to
I had
detox.
to detox and
Yeah.
decompress. Yeah, I needed to get
Wow.
away. So again,
Huh.
I paid attention. That was the year that Judge set the American League home run record. So I knew what was going on, but I could not watch a game. Just couldn't do it. And then I went to some of those playoff games, Yankee playoff games that year. Yeah, now like I love that I dedicated the bulk of my professional life to baseball. I love baseball. I love whatever tiny little niche I carved out for myself in it. I love that I have all these great relationships. So, and I love that again, like this book, it's a bow on what I did, that I was able to write something so different, but that just embraces the game's beauty.
Well said. All right. Well, we wrap up every show here at the Three Inning Fan with our closer because our other love besides baseball is food. And so we like to talk about what we like to eat while watching the ball game, whether you're home, comfortable on your couch, or at the ballpark. But Ken Davidoff, what's good to eat while watching the ball game?
Gosh, well, I mean that's one of my favorite parts of going to a game in person is the cuisine, and the evolution of that cuisine is remarkable, isn't it? Because I mean, you and I are similar age. When I used to go to the old Yankee Stadium, you could stand on a long line for a potato knish, and that was
Yep.
like the most exotic food they had at Yankee Stadium. Like, oh yeah, I'll spend 10 minutes online for a knish. But so now I just love sampling different items at the ballpark and trying something different every time because the options are extraordinary. I give the Yankees credit because when they opened in 2009, I think they were a little they were behind well behind the Mets. Like the Mets were more prepared cuisine wise than the Yankees, but I think the Yankees have gained some ground there and have a lot of really cool options. So that's I just like to try different stuff.
When I was little and I grew up in the suburbs and out here in Connecticut, and there just weren't a lot of knishes where I grew up. And so I went to a ball game with my friend who was obviously older than me because I was little. And she was like, "You want a knish?" And I was like, what is a knish? And I got a knish and I was just like, where have knishes been my whole life? You beautiful things. I mean, they are ridiculously delicious. Do they still sell them at the stadium?
That's a great question. I don't know if they have them at the new Yankee Stadium. I haven't found one, but I'm just so busy trying everything else that I haven't really missed it.
Yeah, there's so many options now. And, yeah, the Yankees were a little behind the Mets, but they were all behind the West Coast. I mean, if you
Yeah,
went out to a West Coast game 15 years ago, they were miles ahead of us. Like,
yeah,
at what was then Pac Bell Park and, Seattle Mariners Park. I mean, they had sushi and everything out there then.
I know, I know. They're probably still ahead, but at least the New York teams are now in the game.
Right. We're in the game. Ken, you have been an amazing guest. Thank you so much for being here today.
Kelly, it's great to see you. I just appreciate your time.
All right, everyone, go out and buy that 101 Lessons from the Dugout for your youth or for that copter mom who really needs to read it. And we'll see you next time on the 3 Inning Fan Show. Bye bye.